In our last video, we established the framework, two paths and only two. Path 1 says the self must be realized. Path 2 says the self must be surrendered. Today we go deep into path 1, the inward path, and we do it fairly. This is the most influential spiritual vision on earth. Before we ever evaluate it, we owe it an honest, generous hearing. So set aside the verdict. For the next 10 minutes, I want you to understand self-realization from the inside, the way its greatest teachers actually mean it, not the way its critics caricature it. The inward path begins with a breathtaking claim. What you are looking for, you already are. The divine is not distant, not other, not out there. It is your deepest self. In the language of the Upanishads and Atma, the innermost self is one with Brahman, the ultimate reality underlying everything, not similar to, not connected to, identical with. You are not a creature begging at the door of the divine. You are the divine, temporarily forgetting itself. Liberation on this view is not acquiring something new. It is remembering what was always true. If the self is already divine, why do we suffer? The inward path answers with a single word: Avidya, ignorance, not moral failure, not broken trust. Ignorance. We suffer because we mistake the small, anxious, separate ego for who we really are. We identify with the body, the personality, the passing thoughts, and miss the boundless awareness beneath them. On this view, the human problem is not that we did something wrong, it is that we know something wrong. We have misidentified ourselves. And what ignorance breaks, knowledge can heal. So the cure fits the diagnosis. If the problem is ignorance, the solution is awakening, direct realization of your true nature. Moksha, liberation, is not a reward earned from an external judge. It is the dissolving of a mistake. The Mandukya Upanishad maps consciousness through waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, and then a fourth state, turiya, pure awareness itself. The goal is to wake up from the dream of separateness. When the illusion of the isolated self falls away, what remains is what was always there: undivided being, consciousness, and bliss, sat-chit-ananda. The Upanishads compress this vision into short, thunderous declarations the tradition calls the Mahavakyas, the great sayings. Tatvamasi, that thou art. From the Chandogya Upanishad, the reality behind the universe is the reality of you. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. From the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, I am Atma Brahm, this self is Brahman. Pragyanam Brahm, consciousness is Brahman. Within the system, these are not arrogant boasts. They are the humblest truth possible. The personal ego is nothing and the true self is everything. You were never separate to begin with. How do you realize what words alone cannot deliver? Through disciplined practice. Meditation quiets the mind until the noise of the ego thins and awareness rests in itself. The yogas, especially Gyan Yoga, the path of knowledge, use rigorous inquiry to peel away every false identification. I am not the body, not the breath, not the mind. A guru, one who has already awakened, points the student past concepts toward direct experience. None of this creates divinity. It uncovers it. The tools do not build the treasure. They clear away the dirt that has been covering it all along. We have to be honest about the power of this vision. It dignifies you infinitely. You are not a worm. You are the ground of being. It resolves the fear of death. If you are eternal awareness, nothing essential can die. It democratizes the sacred. No priest, no institution, no external permission required. The divine is as close as your own attention, and it delivers real experiences. Genuine peace, expanded awareness, moments of dissolving boundaries that millions describe as the most real of their lives. This is not a shallow error. It is a profound, coherent, internally consistent worldview. I want to say this plainly because too many critics never do. Self-realization is intellectually serious. It has been refined for 3,000 years by minds as rigorous as any in human history. Advaita Vedanta is a philosophical cathedral, subtle, disciplined, and vast. The claim that consciousness is fundamental, that awareness, not matter, is the deepest layer of reality, is being taken seriously again even in modern philosophy of mind. If you have dismissed the inward path as vague Eastern mysticism, you have not understood it. It deserves your respect before it receives your scrutiny. And yet, everything hangs on one question. The entire path assumes the diagnosis is right, that the human problem is ignorance, and that beneath the ego lies a self that is pure, divine, and in need only of awakening. But what if that assumption is wrong? What if the problem is not that we have forgotten our divinity, but that the self, all the way down, is bent, self-centered, and unable to heal itself? Then looking inward would not be the cure. It would be looking for clean water in a well that has been poisoned. This is where the two paths truly divide, not over practices, but over the diagnosis of the self. The inward path says your deepest self is trustworthy. Go there. Scripture says something startling in the other direction. Jeremiah 17:9. The heart is deceitful above all things. The problem is not a clean self buried under ignorance. The problem is a self that curves in on itself. If that is true, then more inward focus does not liberate. It entrenches. You cannot awaken your way out of a problem that lives in the awakener. Notice too what the inward path cannot offer. By design, it cannot offer relationship, because in the end, there is no other to relate to. If all is one and you are that, then love, forgiveness, and trust are ultimately provisional, features of the very illusion you are trying to transcend. But the biblical vision insists the deepest reality is not undifferentiated oneness. It is personal, a God who speaks, who pursues, who forgives. The question is not merely are you awake, it is are you known? And do you know the one who is truly other than you? Test it where life is hardest. When you are crushed by grief or guilt, the inward path says, this pain belongs to the ego. Rise above it, disidentify. Realize it isn't ultimately you. There is real relief in that, but also a quiet danger. It can teach you to escape the self rather than be rescued from it. It can turn peace into detachment and detachment into numbness. The gospel does something stranger. It does not tell you to transcend your grief. It gives you a God who weeps with you and then does something about it. Let me be clear about what I am not doing. I am not caricaturing self-realization as selfishness or navel-gazing. That would be a straw man, and straw men help nobody. The inward path is often pursued with astonishing discipline, humility, and sincerity. Many of its practitioners are more serious about the spiritual life than most Christians I know. My disagreement is not about their effort or their intelligence. It is about one thing only: the diagnosis. Is the self the solution waiting to be uncovered, or the problem that cannot cure itself? So here is what I want you to sit with before the next video. Not is meditation bad? It isn't. Not are these people foolish? They aren't. The question is deeper and more personal. When you go all the way down into yourself, what do you actually find? A pure divine awareness that only needs remembering? Or a self that, however deep you dig, still needs to be rescued from itself? Your honest answer to that question will determine which path is truly yours. Don't rush it. The whole series turns on it. Here is where this video leaves us. The inward path is coherent, ancient, and sincere, and I have tried to represent it fairly because it deserves nothing less. But coherent is not the same as true. If the self is divine and merely ignorant, then awakening saves. But if the self is broken and turned in on itself, then looking inward for the cure is the ego's most sophisticated trap, sending a wounded self back to itself for a healing it cannot give. I believe the ultimate God is personal, relational, and has revealed himself in Jesus. And that surrender to him, not realization of ourselves, is the only path to forgiveness, trust, and restored relationship. Look honestly, surrender is waiting.